Daniel had always enjoyed driving at night. There was something about the quiet darkness that soothed his restless soul. It was his escape from the daily routine, a way to clear his mind and find solace in solitude. On this particular night, however, his peaceful drive would take an unexpected turn. Daniel set out on a deserted country road, the headlights cutting through the thick darkness. The road stretched out endlessly, lined with tall, looming trees that seemed to whisper secrets to one another. The faint glow of the moon barely made its way through the thick canopy above, adding an eerie touch to the night drive. As Daniel continued down the road, he noticed a figure up ahead. It was a woman, standing alone by the side of the road, her silhouette barely visible in the dim light. Concerned, Daniel slowed down and pulled over to offer his assistance. "Are you all right?" he called out, rolling down his window. The woman turned towards him, her face hidden in the shadows. "Please, I need your help," she said, her voice filled with desperation. "My car broke down, and I don't have a phone. Can you give me a ride to the nearest town?" Daniel hesitated for a moment, his instincts warning him to be cautious. However, he couldn't ignore someone in need. "Sure, hop in," he said, unlocking the passenger door. The woman got in, and as soon as the car started moving, a shiver ran down Daniel's spine. There was something off about her, something that made him uneasy. He tried to strike up a conversation, but she remained silent, staring out into the darkness. As they drove on, Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that they were being followed. He glanced in the rearview mirror and saw a pair of headlights trailing them in the distance. The car stayed at a constant distance, maintaining its eerie presence. His heart raced, and he knew he had to make a decision. Should he confront the mysterious pursuer or continue driving towards the town? Daniel's mind raced with possibilities, and the tension in the car became almost unbearable. Suddenly, the woman beside him broke the silence. "You need to lose them," she said, her voice filled with urgency. "Take the next turn to the right and keep driving." Daniel looked at her, bewildered. "Who are they? Why are they following us?" The woman's eyes darted nervously. "I can't explain now. Just trust me, please." Reluctantly, Daniel took the next right turn, his pulse pounding in his ears. The pursuit continued, the mysterious car refusing to give up. Fear and adrenaline coursed through Daniel's veins as he raced down unfamiliar roads, hoping to lose their pursuer. As Daniel sped through the winding roads, his mind raced with questions. Who was this woman? And why was someone following them? He had stumbled into a web of mystery and danger, and he couldn't shake the feeling that he had made a grave mistake by offering her a ride. In the distance, he spotted a dilapidated old barn on the side of the road. With a surge of desperation, he made a split-second decision and veered the car into the darkened structure. The pursuing car screeched to a halt just outside, its headlights illuminating the interior of the barn. Heart pounding, Daniel and the woman sat in silence, peering through the gaps in the wooden slats, hoping to remain hidden. The occupants of the other car stepped out, their voices hushed but filled with malice. Daniel strained to listen, trying to make out their conversation. "I know she's in there," a man's voice hissed. "We can't let her escape. Find them." Fear gripped Daniel's chest as he realized the severity of the situation. The woman beside him clutched his arm, her trembling fingers digging into his skin. They were trapped, hiding like hunted animals, with nowhere to run. Minutes turned into an eternity as the pursuers calmed the area, their footsteps growing louder with each passing moment. Daniel's mind raced, desperately searching for a way out. Suddenly, a daring plan formed in his mind. With a silent signal, he urged the woman to follow him. They crawled along the dusty floor of the barn, avoiding the moonlight that spilled through the cracks. Stealthily, they made their way to the back of the barn, where an old wooden door stood, barely hanging on its hinges. Daniel pushed the door open, wincing as it creaked, betraying their presence. They stumbled out into the night, their eyes adjusting to the darkness outside. They were now in the middle of a dense forest, surrounded by towering trees that seemed to swallow the feeble moonlight. Without a moment's hesitation, they ran. Branches clawed at their clothes, and their feet sank into the soft earth as they sprinted through the unforgiving wilderness. The sound of pursuit echoed behind them, growing distant yet persisting. Exhaustion gnawed at Daniel's muscles, threatening to bring him down, but the fear of capture propelled him forward. The woman's hand slipped from his grasp, and he looked back to see her stumble and fall. He rushed back to her side, breathless. "We can't stop now," he urged, offering his hand. Tears streamed down her face as she nodded, her voice trembling. "Thank you for helping me. I can't let them find me." They pressed on, their steps heavy and labored. The forest seemed endless, their bodies pushed to their limits. Just as hope began to wane, they stumbled upon a clearing, and in the distance, a faint glow of civilization. They burst out of the forest, their lungs gasping for air. They had reached a small town, its streets bathed in the glow of streetlights. Daniel flagged down the first passing car, explaining the situation and pleading for help. The police were called, and the woman was taken into custody. Daniel watched as she was led away, a mix of relief and sadness washing over him. He had unwittingly become entangled in her dangerous world, forever marked by the night drive that had turned his life upside down. As Daniel walked away, he couldn't help but glance back at the woman one last time. Her eyes met his, filled with a mixture of gratitude and regret. It was a fleeting moment, a silent acknowledgement of the darkness they had faced together. And as he drove away from that small town, the echoes of that night drive lingered in Daniel's mind. A chilling reminder of the fragile line between the ordinary and the extraordinary, between safety and peril, and the haunting secrets that can be uncovered on a seemingly innocent journey through the night. Nancy had always found solace in the quiet of the night. The darkness seemed to wrap around her, offering a sense of anonymity and freedom. Tonight, she embarked on a night drive, seeking a reprieve from the chaos of her daily life. Little did she know that this drive would lead her down a path she could never have imagined. Nancy set off on a winding country road, the beams of her headlights piercing through the enveloping darkness. The night air was crisp and filled with a sense of anticipation. As she drove deeper into the night, a feeling of unease settled in the pit of her stomach. It was as if she were being watched, an invisible presence lingering just beyond her perception. Pushing the nagging feeling aside, Nancy focused on the road ahead. The silence was broken only by the hum of her engine and the rustling of leaves in the gentle breeze. As she rounded a curve, she noticed a figure standing at the edge of the road, a woman seemingly lost and alone. Nancy's compassionate nature urged her to stop and offer assistance. She pulled over and rolled down the window, peering out into the night. "Are you okay? Do you need help?" The woman turned towards her, her face obscured by shadows. "Please, I'm lost," she said, her voice trembling. "Can you give me a ride to the nearest town?" Despite the pang of uncertainty, Nancy's empathetic instincts won over. "Of course, hop in," she replied, unlocking the passenger door. The woman entered the car, and Nancy sensed an immediate shift in the atmosphere. A chill ran down her spine, but she dismissed it as mere paranoia. She tried to engage the woman in conversation, but she remained silent, her gaze fixed straight ahead. As they drove on, Nancy couldn't shake off the feeling that something was terribly wrong. The road seemed unfamiliar, twisting and turning in unexpected ways. The woman's silence only heightened Nancy's unease. Suddenly, the sound of a car engine roared behind them. Nancy glanced in the rearview mirror and saw headlights closing in fast. Panic gripped her as she realized they were being chased. The pursuer was relentless, tailgating them and honking aggressively. Heart pounding, Nancy faced a critical decision. Should she continue on the current path or take a risk and deviate from the known route? The pursuit intensified, forcing her hand. Without a second thought, she swerved off the road, venturing onto an unmarked dirt path that disappeared into the darkness. The pursuing car screeched to a halt, its driver seemingly taken aback by Nancy's sudden maneuver. Nancy's heart raced as she pushed her car to its limits, navigating the treacherous terrain. Adrenaline surged through her veins as she desperately sought a way out, determined to lose her pursuers once and for all. Nancy's hands gripped the steering wheel tightly as she maneuvered her car through the winding dirt path. The pursuit continued, the pursuing car refusing to give up. Her mind raced, desperately searching for an escape route or a sign of civilization that could bring help. Minutes turned into an eternity as Nancy pushed her car to its limits. The dense forest seemed to close in around her, amplifying the sense of isolation and danger. She knew she couldn't keep up this frantic pace forever, but the thought of surrendering to her pursuers was not an option. Just when her hope began to waver, she spotted a faint glow in the distance. A small cluster of lights peeked through the trees, indicating the presence of a remote cabin. With renewed determination, Nancy veered towards the light, praying that she had found sanctuary. As she approached the cabin, she saw a man standing outside, peering into the night. He turned to her, surprise flickering across his face as he realized her frantic state. Nancy quickly explained the situation, her words tumbling out in a rush. The man, named Enrique, nodded and motioned for her to park her car behind the cabin. He assured her that she was safe now and that he would handle the situation. Grateful for the unexpected help, Nancy followed his lead. Inside the cabin, Nancy caught her breath, her heart still racing from the adrenaline-filled chase. Enrique, a kind-hearted stranger, offered her a cup of hot tea, which she gratefully accepted. As she sipped the warm liquid, Enrique explained that he lived in the cabin, seeking solace from the world, just like she did during her night drives. They sat by the crackling fireplace, sharing stories and finding comfort in each other's company. Enrique revealed that he had noticed suspicious activity in the area and had been investigating it on his own. He believed that Nancy had unknowingly stumbled upon something dangerous. Together, they devised a plan. Enrique would contact the authorities and share the information he had gathered while Nancy stayed hidden at the cabin. They knew they had to bring an end to the pursuers and ensure Nancy's safety. Days turned into weeks as Enrique and Nancy worked in secret to gather evidence and assist the authorities. Finally, their efforts paid off. The criminal organization responsible for the pursuit was dismantled, and the individuals involved were apprehended. With the danger finally behind her, Nancy couldn't help but reflect on the life-altering night drive that had led her to Enrique and this unexpected alliance. She had learned to trust her instincts, discovered inner strength she never knew she possessed, and formed an unbreakable bond with a stranger turned confidant. As Nancy bid farewell to the remote cabin, she carried with her a renewed sense of empowerment. The night drive had transformed her, reshaping her perception of the world and her own capabilities. She knew that her love for the night would persist, but she would forever be vigilant, aware of the hidden dangers that lurked beneath the darkness.